Hey everyone, Gavin Lance Top here. I'm here with Mike Barrett, an absolute standout in my eyes. Every time I see this bloke in person, he's not just a big, strong, good looking man, but he's got a very powerful story. He's the founder of Transformational House, actually a couple of rehabs that is just changing people's lives in many ways. You know, he's an evangelist. He's everything and more. But mate, I'll let you talk more about that. But thanks for coming on today, mate.
Mate, it's my pleasure. Thanks for inviting me. I'm always up for a good chat with another legend like yourself, mate. And it's good for us guys to get together and I guess chew the fat over the internet, but to allow people to enter into our worlds and our minds and our stories, which are again miraculous. It's all God, but it's a privilege.
Well, mate. And yeah, you're a faith man. You're a fighter. You're a warrior, mate. But tell us, mate, go back. Tell us a little bit about your story, if that's okay.
Yeah, well, I grew up in a pretty good family. My dad was a firefighter. Mum worked in some auto auctions. I had one sister who ended up becoming a supermodel and an actress. She's a famous actress now, been in the movies and everything. And then she married another famous actor, and they've been really successful. They live in London now. But I grew up in the western suburbs of Brisbane, and when I went to high school, I was bullied a bit. I was like the little chubby kid, used to get bullied at high school, and mum decided the best answer for that was to stick me in karate lessons. And then she had a new problem on her hands because I'd get kicked out for fighting. I learned to sort of answer all the problems with my fists, but I was super responsible. I ended up buying my own house at the age of 21, and I'd become a chef, and I was working at the Brisbane Casino, Brisbane Treasury Casino, and as a chef, and I was running my own karate school, and I was, for all intents and purposes, super responsible. My life seemed to be getting together, but I was always searching something. There was always something missing. I don't know what it was. I just never felt really satisfied, and I was, that old story of you chasing what you can't have, and then when you got it, you don't want it. When you don't have it, you miss it. And just this constant chasing of things. And anyway, I think I was about 22, and I got introduced to amphetamines by a karate sensei, believe it or not. And he came around, and he just he brought out these 2 needles full of amphetamines and just said, "Look, try this. We'll go out for it. We'll have a good night." And I said, "Oh, look, I'm not really in drugs, certainly not in needles, but I trusted him." And he just said, "Look, I'll just do you up. Just if you don't like it, doesn't matter." But the first time I had that, it was like just the rush of the century, and I felt like I was Superman. And I remember thinking this thought: I better be careful. I could get addicted to this stuff, like just in that first moment. I felt like all my Christmases had come at once, and I felt fantastic, So, a few weeks went by, I didn't do it, and then my mate, this karate guy, he says again, like, let's go out on that, and we did, and then it went from sort of every once a month to every couple of weeks to every weekend, and then I being the resourceful sort of person, I met his deal, and I worked my way up from his dealer to his dealer's dealer to his dealer's dealer's dealer, and then worked out where I could get the source of it, and just over time, I wish someone would give me this little black book that said, you get tolerance, like this tolerance builds, and you need more and more of the same stuff to get the same result, and because it was just becoming unaffordable, unmanageable. I was working 4 hours over the convention centre over the river and 8 hours at the casino. The 8 hours at the casino would take care of my mortgage and my house and my normal life, and the 4 hours at the casino would take care of my drug habit. At the convention centre, and I'd be like juggling all this, and it became unsustainable. I ran out of excuses as to why I couldn't turn up to work. Come up with glandular fever once because I thought that's good, that's recurring. I can get some good value out of that one. And anyway, eventually, a couple of my mates were dealing drugs, and they seemed to be making money hand over fist. So I made the career move from chef to drug dealer. So And I was a terrible drug dealer, mate. I was the worst. Like, I get generous with all my mates, and I'd be in and out. I'd forget who owed me what, and trust these people and rip me off, and take too much of my own product, and ended up just owing my drug dealer more and more money.
Yeah.
Anyway, sort of tracking back, before I got too addicted to the drugs, I'd gone from karate, and around that time, full contact kickboxing was taken off in Australia, Bob Jones Corporation, and then Muay Thai came in after that, and it was like kickboxing. It was kickboxing's golden era in Australia. Paul and Nathan Briggs and Anthony Hitman Vella and all these guys, Stan the Man Longanides, and it was, everyone sort of, karate became boring, and we all got into kickboxing. So I'd had a bunch of amateur fights, kickboxing. I'd done quite well with that, but then ended up with some pretty gnarly injuries, and then just sort of went from there further and further into the club scene, doing security, and then the underworld scene from there. And so, my drug dealer came round one day asking me, he came round to collect, basically. I owed him 10 grand, and bought this big goon with him. I said, it's going to go that way. You'll need two of them. And he put his arm around me, and he said, no, I want to offer you a job. So he offered me a job of watching his back in the clubs and then doing collections for him. So I didn't mind the watching his back in the club. I felt like a bit of a celebrity, a little bit of a legend in my own lunchbox. So he'd walk in, and DJ'd stop, and everyone would know the drug dealer was there. They'd say, watch out for the doctor. And then I'd walk in, and it was a bit of a, I always struggled with, I guess, identity, because my sister had achieved this fame, and my parents really, they just lavished attention. They couldn't help it. Like, she was famous. I mean, she was the first. They used to have these commercials, like these Decore commercials. They go, song Decore, and there's the blonde girl used to swoosh her hair at the end, so she's famous. And they'd bring these life-size posters of her to my house, and there'd be like a little poster-size picture of me next to it. But anything I did didn't seem to get the same, attention. And so eventually I thought, if I can't be good enough, I'll be bad and be good at it, And so, and then I went down that track of being the baddest person. I'd wanted to know the baddest person in the room, and then I wanted to be the baddest person in the room, and then have people respect me out of fear, and I've got a reputation and all that kind of stuff. And originally that was just going to be to pay my drug dealer back, and then I just, I fell deeper and deeper in the scene and addiction. He would give me drugs and money and whatever I want, women, whatever I wanted, and just the lifestyle just consumed me. But there was one day I'll never forget. It was like 7:00 in the morning in Fortitude Valley, and I was sitting on this park bench, and I had this what I would call an awakening moment. The Bible talks about this story about the prodigal son when he's in this pig pen, and it says he comes to himself. And it was like I'd had this I'd come to myself, and I thought, how did my life become this? Like, when I was in school, and the teacher goes, what do you want to be when you grow up? I didn't go, I want to be a dirty, filthy drug dealer and standover guy, like that's my ambition. But that's what my life had become, and I thought, no, this is not me, and I tried to give up the drugs, but I moved back to my parents' house, and then all the crap and everything followed me to there, and then my mum wanting to believe me, I was able to manipulate her, and she'd be very naive, but my sister was on to me, and she came back from America and staged this thing called an addict intervention. An addict intervention, like, best way to describe it's like a surprise party for the addict. The addict doesn't know about it, and there are all these family and friends around, like, just to confront you about what an arsehole you're becoming in your addiction, and so all in love, but like, you're not really thinking that's great. So it feels like a bit of an ambush. So,
And Mike, can I ask, what age were you then?
I was 27 at that point.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
27, and I, what they were saying is not what I was saying. The nature of addiction is denial, heard someone say
Yeah.
deny sense, but don't even know I'm lying.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
and I just I thought I was killing it. Still, I thought I can deal with, I can do it myself, and they're like, no, you need help, and and we want you to go into this clinic, and I bucked and kicked and everything, but eventually I went along, and more for their sake than mine. And I went into this rehab program, and now this rehab program, it wasn't a spiritual program. It was just more like a boot camp where you get 30 other addicts to confront you about your behaviours and everything, and you get some counselling around that, and a whole bunch of rules and regulations. And anyway, I ended up doing 9 months in that rehab and finished the program. I was
Yeah.
always either super compliant or super defiant. It was either one or the other. There's nothing in between. So I went in there super defiant, but then I sort of became super compliant. But it's like a wound up spring, and couldn't find the balance. But I got out of there, and I thought, well, what now? I didn't have any purpose, and that was the main thing I was missing. So I started drinking because I thought alcohol wasn't my drug of choice. It's not a real issue, but it's always a gateway. It opened the door, and I was hanging on by my fingertips not to use my drug of choice. Now, I knew if I stuck a needle in my arm again, it would be the super highway to not just where I was, but worse. I'd either end up dead or I'd be in jail. So I had a healthy fear around going back, and so I thought, well, I've got to do something more. So I went to these 12-step meetings, NA, AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, and I saw the 12 steps as like a pathway to God.
Yep.
So me being the arrogant so-and-so I wasn't going to get a sponsor and do all that things they said, and I didn't trust anyone in that room. I thought they were all jelly beans, and I was better than them. So I went off on the search for God myself. I just went on my own little pilgrimage. And go down to Hare Krishnas, and I have a little boogie and a free veggie meal with them, and I did that for a few weeks, and I thought, you're nice people, and everything, but you just don't have what I need. Like I need a real God. I need a real God, a tangible. I need a real God, someone that I can talk to, and someone that I can connect with, and so then I tried. It was all the Eastern religions first because the martial arts sort of appealed to me more. So I tried, meditation. I got way too much ADD to meditate. It just drive me mad, more anxiety. So I gave up on that. There was some chick at NA, and she had these crystals, and she was all in these crystals, and she was good looking. So I thought that's a nice connection point. I'll take one of her crystals. And she said, these little pink crystals, if you rub them, you got anxiety, you just rub it and you feel better. One day I got anxiety. I remember the little pink crystal in my pocket, and I started rubbing it. I'm rubbing it. I'm rubbing it so hard, I nearly rubbed my own fingerprint off, but it didn't help my anxiety at all. I thought, that's just a rock, and threw it away. So I'm still searching. I haven't found any. But a mate of mine started dating this Christian chick, and he goes, do you want to come to church? And I said, what for?
Yeah.
And he goes, well, you're looking for God, aren't you? I said, God's not in church, man. I've been to Catholic church, stand up, sit down, look at the stained glass windows. God's not in
Yeah.
church, mate. He goes, no, this church is different, and I said, nah, man, I'm good. I'm not really a church person. And he goes, what, are you scared? I said,
Ooh.
beg your pardon? I'm not scared of nothing, man. What are you talking about? He goes, no, you're
He knew
scared
what
of
to
church.
say.
He got me. I'm like, I'm not. Look, I'll go to church just to prove I'm not scared of you. Scared of your church, mate. So, but I was crapping myself. I got to tell you, I was in church, and I'd stand up the back
Love
like this, with this,
it.
make sure nobody looked at me, and nobody, we had this overzealous greeter guy named Larry with a big painted on smile come up to try and shake my hand. I said, Larry, if you ever approach me again, I'll punch you right in the face. I'm not here to make friends. Not here to make friends. I'm just here to see if God's real. And I certainly didn't want to become part of the club. I didn't want anyone to come near me. I'd stand at the back like this the whole service, and then I'd leave as quickly as I could. Anyway, the first time I was at church, I couldn't explain, but my week was better. Like I had less anxiety. My week was just unreal. And I thought, well, it must be church. It's the only thing I've done differently. So I went back to church purely as like a good luck thing, and I kept going for about 6 weeks into it, where something different happened, and I was standing in the service, and they're playing the church music, the worship music, and I was standing there like that up the back, and I felt this energy hit me like from the top of my head, and it went down over my shoulders and like all through my body, and it was like best way I could describe it was like liquid love hit me
Yep.
and just
Yep.
flowed through my body, and I'll get goosebumps as I even talk about it. Just the feeling of that, and I went, "What was that? That was better than heroin, better than methadone, better than the best drugs I've ever had."
Yeah.
And I thought someone had touched me or something, but it was just God. And I nudged the guy beside me and I said, "Did you feel that?" And he goes, "Feel what?" And I described the feeling to him, and he said, "Oh, that's the Holy Spirit, man." I said, "Well, how do I get more?" Me being the drug addict I just wanted more, right? How do I get more?
Yeah.
More. I was going to get a T-shirt out and see and just said more. Right? So I'm trying to find out how to get more. And he goes, "Oh, look, I don't know, mate. You know, like just, I don't know." And so I'm thinking, I saw some of these people in the church putting their hands up like this. I thought maybe that's how you do it. I put my hands up, didn't get nothing happened. I thought if you clap, maybe that happens. Nothing happened then either. I went back to my usual posture and I got hit again with another wave of it. I'm like, "Whoa, what was that? I got to get more of this Holy Spirit." And
Yeah.
the guy at the end, I didn't. Usually, I didn't listen to much of the preaching. It was like, my mind would switch off like I was in school. And but this guy, he got into my head, and he said, "If you want all your sins washed away, and you want a brand new start, and you'd like to ask God into your life today." I remember feeling this voice in my heart going, "This is it. This is what we've been looking for all our life. This is it. We're home. This is it." And I felt this drawing, and then I'd hear this other voice up in my head that go, "No, don't do it. You'll be an idiot. You'll become one of them. Just look at them." And I'd look at them. I go, "Yeah, that's right. I don't want to become one of them." And
Yeah.
I felt like a schizophrenic, man. I have this argument. Anyway, my heart dragged me up the altar before my head could talk me out of it. And for the first time in years, I got all this snot and tears flowing out of me, and didn't know what had happened. I just broke. I felt like I was home for the first time, and I felt the Father's embrace. And then they led me off, and they wanted to get my address and name. And I said, "Look, mate, no, none of that. But I just want to know how to get more of that stuff, you know." How to get more of that stuff.
Love it.
And he goes, "Look, I'm just trying to do my job. But no, I don't care. I'm not signing up to your cult and your thing and your club and whatever. I just want to know how you get more of that stuff that I felt up the back there." He's like, "I don't know." So I come with the next week with a mission, man. I was going to find out how you get this stuff. And I saw the pastor pushing people over up the front list. That's what I thought he was doing. And I looked over and I said, "Mate, how are you feeling?" I did doing my own research. So, "How are you feeling and how did you get it?" And that they were just intimidated, didn't want to know me, like, and I don't know why. And anyway, so I put two and two together. After a while, I worked out when you play the church music, stuff comes. So I bought a little CD from the church, went home, put in my CD player, laid back on the floor, and now I've got the stuff on tap, like wave after wave after wave. I would soak under this worship music with just waves of this ecstasy of this presence for like hours at a time and feel like 5 minutes. Then I had this bright idea that every drug addict, every drug dealer, every gang leader, every prostitute, everyone needs to feel this feeling. So I just started inviting people around to my house. I went out back to the rehab that I was volunteering at, that I went through. I said, "Listen, we got some stuff at my place that doesn't come up on the drug tests, like you should come around.
Love it.
We'll be there." And then some people on the street, and that stuff, we got better stuff in my place, like I just invite anybody. And the first night I had 15 people in the lounge room I didn't know. And I just pushed play and hope for the best. Hope that they'd get touched with the same stuff that I did. I shut my eyes, and then after a while, I opened one eye, I'd have a look around, and I realised that God was no respecter of people. He was had no favourites. Every single person in the room was getting touched. There was tears rolling. These hardened guys, tattoos all over him, tears running down their face, and
Yeah.
it just grew and grew, and they were telling their friends about it, and ended up with 30 people in my lounge room. Woke up and my stereo equipment was gone, and but it was just like a revival. It was a move of God where God was just responding to this hunger. One guy even paid a prostitute for an hour and brought her to the meeting, and she
Wow.
got touched by the power of God and just broke and opened up. I don't want to do this anymore. And what is this feeling I'm feeling? It just feels like love. And so we invited her to the church, and I started thinking, well, like all these people, they're going back to the brothels, the streets, the drug dens, and everything. They can't change like that. So that's when I rented the little house next door to the church, asked the pastor if I could rent it, and then just started taking people in and developed a little program. And then over time, it's developed. After 10 years, it developed into like a full drug and alcohol rehabilitation program that was recognised by Queensland Health. And then God said to me, I want you to duplicate it, and for want of a better word, franchise it out to churches and
Yeah.
basically empower churches to run a successful professional drug and alcohol rehab programs based on evidence and stuff. So now, 24 years later, we've got
Yeah.
rehabs in nearly every state of Australia, and we've got beds nationwide, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. We're getting people from prison and from the streets and from every walk of life, and they're becoming leaders. Like there's pastors and prophets and evangelists in the nations, like they're all, who've come out of transformations now. It's phenomenal. One time, I'll finish the story with this, but I said to God, because I was so just really amazed at what God was doing, and I said, God, why do you like using drug addicts and alcoholics so much? And I heard him, Gav, as clear as I'm talking to you. He said, they're the only people, son, that I can find that know what it's like to live for just one thing.
Yeah.
They know what it's like to be driven from the time they get up, be driven
Yep.
to be
Yep.
to be single-minded in their focus. And when God gets them, they're radical.
Yeah. 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 No, amen, mate. But something that you said 5-10 minutes ago about when you came out of that rehab, you realised you didn't have a purpose.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I suppose that, for me, that's what I'm always, I suppose, talking about is finding your purpose, your mission. You were designed
100%.
with a unique gift, a purpose, a mission. And mate, it just makes my heart swell knowing that you got your purpose, you got your
That's it.
mission. It wasn't an easy way to get it, I'm
Yeah,
sure. But what that has done in you,
yeah.
through you.
Oh, it's where what someone said once. Two greatest times in a man's life: one when he's born, the second when he finds out why.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I know I'm walking in my God-given purpose.
yeah.
Couple of times I've diverted from that. I won't tell. In true vulnerability, transparency, like I've
Yes.
gone. Well, how come I have to deal with all the bowels of society and the scrap heap of like humanity? I got the hardest job, and I'd clean them up, and then the church would say, "Thanks for coming. We'll take them." And now, and
Yeah.
I'd make them into leaders, and they'd shoot off like shooting stars and not stick around. But I've come to terms, and a couple of times I handed God my resignation because drug addicts are hard work. Like
Yeah.
they're manipulative, they're deceptive, they're
Yep.
aggressive, they can be vindictive,
Sounds a
and
lot like you.
well, yeah, that's if God hadn't done a work in me, that's what I would have been
Yeah.
like for sure.
Yeah.
So but yeah, it's and it's definitely I love it. I love seeing
Yeah.
people who come in and they're a shell of their former self, they're a shell of a person,
Yeah.
they just come to
Yeah.
life.
And mate, just as you're saying, because something that I'm always talking about is creating, I suppose, a culture that supports the people we love, that impacts others. I'm always talking
Yeah,
about legacy,
yeah,
creating something that we're proud of, but creating something that our children's children can run with. And mate, what
100%.
you are doing is extraordinary. What you've been able to create and still creating. There's more in you. There's
Yeah,
more to come.
yeah.
But mate, the impact that you're having is phenomenal. You know, think all like what is it? What do you got now? 200 beds
Mm,
around Australia
mm.
in several states that
We just
is
started in
all those
Texas, Gav.
families.
We just started in
Sorry?
Texas. We've just
Oh,
started
come
in
on.
Texas, so yeah, yeah,
Amazing.
right on the border of like cartel land and Texas,
Mate,
so it's in
amazing.
the valley there.
Amazing, because you know we've got doing the man alive experience. We've got men in Texas. We've got men everywhere. So,
Right?
mate, what we'll do is we'll put your link. How to get in touch with you
Yeah, they can
guys.
volunteer
This
and
is
help out for
amazing.
sure. Yeah,
This is
yeah, they can find
amazing.
their
So,
purpose through it.
so mate,
So
even like I know you've mentioned like then, hey man, why did you have to deal with these guys? Why did God give you this assignment? But then there's a lot of other people that you're helping also. You know, all walks, like you said, God is no respecter of
that's
time,
it.
place,
I think
person.
when you run a charity for 20 years too, and you're always raising money, and you know this how hard it is to sort of raise money for
Yeah,
your passion and your purpose, and you run not for profit, and
yeah,
you almost feel a bit like a professional beggar after a while for everybody's crumbs,
right.
and but God just recently he gave me an idea to start a high end for profit 5-star rehabilitation program for those that could
Yeah,
afford it, where you
yeah.
get your own PT, acupuncturist, masseuse, you get your bloods done, nutrition, you get chef cooked meals, a psychologist sees you daily. It's on a $4 million property, and
Yeah.
that's called salt recovery. And so that's just become a reality. I started that during COVID, which is
Amazing.
interesting because you started something. It was a shift for you to
Yeah.
and started something, and I think us entrepreneurial type people we get bored when the government shuts us down and tries to, and then
No
we create
way.
bursts of creativity. So anyway, so that salt recovery too is and
And
we deal with
whereabouts is that
clients.
based?
That's on the Gold Coast too. So that's out near a place called Springbrook, where there's waterfalls and
Beautiful.
up in the
Yeah,
mountains. We're on 17 acres
yeah.
and big $4 million property with home cinema and spa and pool and you name it. It's just everything laid on there.
People sound like people go there and won't want to leave.
We've had people that want to just pitch a tent out the back even just to not go anywhere. So, but yeah, it's and we've had everything from football celebrities to actors and CEOs of companies and just because I mean addiction has no preference from the penthouse to the outhouse, mate. It's just so and it destroys lives. So
Yeah, 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 mate. This is phenomenal, mate. Just to hear your story, it's a massive comeback story, isn't it?
yeah, and I think that's what God's into the constant comeback. So I think just when we think we're done, there's a passage in the Bible that says that a smouldering flax he won't put out, and a bruised reed he won't break. And
Yeah,
I think as long as there's still air in your lungs, and God can use you one more time,
yeah,
there's always that one more time in you.
yeah,
And I think just when we think we're done, that God says, "No, get up. You're just getting started."
yeah, yeah. And I think, mate, listening, to your story, how where you started from and where you ended up working as a standover man, couldn't pay the drug dealer, and like you say on that park bench was possibly the best moment of your life. One leading into the best moment of your life.
Yeah, that moment of clarity, because it was definitely. I don't know where I'd be if it wasn't for that. Like,
Yeah.
and that's what God does. Leaves the 99, goes after the one, and reached out to me, and here I am today. But yeah, I would be dead. I should have been dead multiple times, and God saved me. So I owe him
And
everything. Some mates, you're not going to take this Christianity thing too far, are you, buddy? You know, look, you're not going to be one of them Bible bashing Jesus freaks, are you? You know, look, come on, mate. And I said,
yeah.
listen, because I knew I was saved. I said, listen, I would be dead uh, many times over, and God saved me. The least I can do is give him my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
The least I can. I mean, I had a $500 a day habit.
Yeah.
Imagine if I could just give 10% of that to the Lord, $50
Yeah.
every day, even, you know. But
Yeah.
and people go, oh, you know, they go on about giving 10% to the church or tithing to the church. I said, well, giving 10% to God's nothing when I gave 100% to the devil.
Yeah. There you go. That's a very good point, isn't it?
That's right.
Wow.
So
Yeah, mate. So,
yeah,
go on.
yeah. So I've been privileged enough to travel the world with that story. I've preached in prisons in Papua New
Yeah.
Guinea, in the Philippines, in Australia, in Mexico, in Argentina, in Europe, in Africa. I've done mass crusades
Yeah.
in Mexico, in Papua New Guinea, or in Africa,
Yeah.
in the Philippines, and that's part of my gifting now is to just really spread that hope and that presence and the power to see
Yeah.
people encounter the power of God. Like if
Yeah.
I wish someone had told me that there was power in Christianity.
Yeah.
I just thought it was a bunch of Ned Flanders walking around that, you know, with their
Yeah.
big Bibles under their arms, telling
Yeah.
everybody they were going to hell, you know.
Yeah.
But when I
Yeah.
found out there was real power in this stuff, it
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
because I'll admit it, I was a power addict as much as
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
the power and the control, and
Yeah.
it's the thing is in the kingdom, it's the opposite. It's through surrender that you gain power.
Yeah, yeah. And mate, there's going to be men that are going to listen to this and they're going to ask questions like, oh man, like I suppose similar to what you're saying. I'm up for the God stuff, but not all the other
No,
Ned Flanders
yeah,
stuff. So
amen.
what would you say to those guys like listening? What would be your suggestion right now? What should they do?
Well, it's like I said. I said God's not in church. I've been to Catholic church, and like I would not say I'm religious, but I'm
Yeah,
spiritual, right?
yeah,
And I'm definitely spiritual, and I couldn't survive without Him in my corner.
yeah,
To have Him in my
yeah,
corner, and I come
yeah,
out every round, and He's there, and He's got my
yeah,
back, and He's yelling
yeah.
from the sideline, "Mikey, do this, Mikey, do that." Hit him with an uppercut. He's dropped his hand there. Come on, you know what I'm talking about as a fighter, like that analogy, and there'll be a lot of guys out there that like when you've got God in your corner,
Yeah.
you're
You got to
unbeatable, unbeatable. And so long as you get
yeah,
up off the canvas, when you get knocked down, just peel yourself up
yeah,
and have another go.
yeah,
Well, as I say, the righteous get knocked down, um, you know, 5 times to get up 7 times, and that's the thing. Like one of my favourite quotes is, "It's impossible to beat a man who won't give up."
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And I think God's just gone that one more time every time, and He's been there with me, and I'm a success because of Him, not because I've
yeah,
wanted to give up plenty of times. But
yeah.
it's like that old Rocky, with Rock has Mickey in his crease. Get up, because Mickey loves you. You know, it's like God says,
Yeah,
get up, because Jesus loves you. Like it's like,
yeah,
and I feel that because life's hard, man. Like anyone that tells me life's not hard, they haven't lived. And they haven't stepped up, and they're obviously living under a rock, because life
yeah,
is freaking hard, and it will knock you and beat you, and 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 the only way to be a true success is to is to have that spiritual side of, like we're mind, body, we're spirit as well. And I think it's, I was one of those people that mocked it all because I just saw it as religion and the way it's
Yeah.
been portrayed over the years. But if you see, like my mate smuggles Bibles into communist China,
Yeah.
and if he gets caught, he'll probably get a bullet and they'll send them the invoice for the bullet back to his family.
Yeah.
Like I preach in cartel land. I got this wild Mexican evangelist guy that he's full. Like there was literally there was a war on the border there because like there's 3 cartel families and one of the cartel bosses got shot, so the power imbalance was out, and there was a war and there was like poles on heads in the middle of the street, businesses blowing up, car bombs going off. And I said to him, "Oh, mate, I guess we're not going in there this time while I'm here." He goes, "No, amigo, we go, no problem, we go. I know cartel, no problem, we go." I'm like, "Oh crap!"
Yeah.
And I'm preaching, and I can hear 50 cal gunfire going off up the street.
Wow.
That's how close we are to it. And he's on Twitter, right? And I'm going, "What's going on?" Like, because the only way you can find out what's really going on is on Twitter. All the locals talking, and he said, "Oh, finish up, bro. We need to make a run for the border. Let's get out of here."
And I suppose that's the whole idea. I think God needed a man to go and do that, so he chose you.
Yeah, because I love it. I get excited by it. I preached in Sudan where like there's war there and African boy soldiers. Went to an African boy soldier camp and preached the gospel.
Yeah, jeez.
And God opens doors like that. Those doors are impossible normally to be opened, but
Yeah.
but he loves everybody and he needs special. I've still got this dream. I want to start this show, like a reality show called SAS Evangelists.
Yeah, wow, come on.
And I want to take some of these wild drug addicts and, take them through a training course and then drop
Yeah.
them. Imagine this, like Bill and Bob used to be heroin addicts and they were on the streets of Brisbane. Now they're flying into the jungles of Borneo, armed only with the Bible to preach to the headhunters of Borneo.
Yeah. Wow,
Drop
mate.
them into the
Yeah.
jungle.
Reality TV.
But anyway, we'll see what happens there. I had a dream about them. I think God's on it. So I'll hopefully before I cark it, I'll get that one up and running.
But I think, mate, like what you're saying, like we're laughing and it seems crazy, but that's what God does, doesn't he? He
He does the
puts things
crazy,
in
yeah.
our mind, in our heart, our dreams. He introduces us to the right people at the right time. And,
Yeah.
and you're like what I'm always saying, everything's created twice. First
Yeah.
in our mind before it materializes.
That's
So, mate,
it.
I thank you for having the courage, mate, to follow your heart.
Mm.
For having the courage to follow your faith. It's amazing, mate. And mate, I just while I'm thinking of it, I want to, mate, because there's going to be a lot of people that are listening to this that aren't like you, aren't like me. They're like
There's not
themselves,
many
but
like
they
me,
know somebody who, like, I can't help but think of like your family, your sister, how they created that scenario that they spoke the truth into you. This is where
yeah.
you're at.
Yeah. 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 If it wasn't for that,
Oh.
and it was hard for them because I was not an easy one. It's like catching the tiger by the tail. It was.
Yeah, yeah, mate. So yeah, thank goodness, mate. You have people that love you, and maybe there's people listening to this that love people so much they've just got to like go and grab the tail, go and grab the tail of the
Yeah.
tiger. You just
Give it a
might
go.
change, not
Yeah.
just like it changed your life, but it's changed thousands and thousands of other people's lives. So,
Yeah.
mate, bloody extraordinary.
Nah, it's
Extraordinary.
it's I think there's only one legacy to leave, and that's people.
Yeah,
And I firmly believe that everyone has something in their hand that they can use to
yeah.
help people.
Yep. Yeah.
And it starts with that. And, you know, I just rented a little house and then off we went, you know.
Yeah. Do what's in your hand. That's it. What's in your hand. Use that. Love it, mate. Awesome. So, mate, we're going to get your details and on so people can reach out to you everywhere, you know, with all these rehabs and this, mate, sounds like just an amazing 17-acre property made in the hinterlands there. Wow, amazing, mate. So, yeah, hey, listen, mate, in closing, what's the last thing you'd like to say?
I would say this, that throughout our life, we lose ourselves a bit. Like, this is the essence of most mental health issues and addictions, is that we've suppressed our true self and who we really are for the sake of attachment, for the sake of projection of what we think people, other people, or will accept or love or give us accolades for.
Yeah,
And I can't encourage people enough to find your true self and then act out of your authentic self. Be
yeah,
true to yourself. Listen to that little inner voice. Listen to that gut feeling more than you listen to all the external voices. And if you can do that, you'll have a happy life.
yeah, mate. Awesome, mate. Love you, buddy.
You
Bloody
too, bro.
awesome. Love you, mate. All right, I'm gonna. Hey, listen, everyone. Thanks so much. If you know somebody who would benefit from listening to this, share it with them. Share it. This is going to go on YouTube, in the podcast. There's content everywhere. So hey, listen. Let's inspire the world. Let's change the world one man at a time.
Absolutely.
Over and out.
Thanks, brother.